Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. Before I continue, I urge you to please press the like button. And if you're new to my show, I also urge you to subscribe. I urge you to subscribe because I'm on project 5,000. I want to get this channel to 5,000 subscribers, and you will be helping the channel grow if you subscribe. The world is still in shock at the revelations coming off of the Epstein files. 3 million correspondence of Jeffrey Epstein that has shown the world how much of an influence peddler he was, but it has also shown the world how things are really distorted in America here. To a large extent, the world should be distorted. If you are a policymaker in countries in Latin America and Africa, you would have known how very forceful a particular lobby was in coming off of America that wanted you to adopt policies like the LGBT policies and many other policies that they framed as human rights policies. Some African countries pushed back. So many Latin American countries in Southeast Asia pushed back. So what did they do? They weaponized the IMF and all the institutions that they controlled. They made these conditions for you to get loans and even to get some form of grants and aids. Many African countries know how these policies were pushed down. Some adopted it, some did not. Uganda particularly. One country too that did not adopt the policies that were being pushed on them by the Western elites, many of them in America, but still a lot also in Europe, was Russia. Russia pushed back very seriously, and they made policies that showed that these policies and these goals and ideas of the Western world was quite contrary to what was the norm in their own society. It led President Putin to say that the West was being ruled by satanic forces. In 2023, he made a very powerful speech, and he has made many other speeches subsequently that tended to continue in that strain of thought. And what was this speech? He made this speech where he made this claim about pedophiles.
Aggressive information attacks. First of all, targeting the young generations, lying on every step, distorting historical truth, attacking our culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, and other traditional religious institutions in our country. Now look at what they're doing with their own peoples. They're destroying the institution of family, their cultural and historical identity, and various perversions with regard to children up to pedophilia are accepted as the new norm, and priests are forced to recognize and officiate same-sex weddings.
Indeed, these are very, very strong positions in the West. And it took until President Trump. President Trump has, to a large extent, rolled back many of these policies. But yet, these policies have defined America. They still continue to be very strong in America. And one person who believes strongly that these policies actually is a policy among the ruling elite in America. It's actually one of America's most well-known conservative podcasters. This is Candace Owen here saying something about this. It says, we are ruled by satanic pedophiles who work for Israel. Everyone needs to digest that fact. Pray and prepare yourself to continue the fight against who we are working to protect them in government, media, and church. This is the synagogue of Satan we are up against. She is very insistent on it. She has been saying that we know now the ties that Jeffrey Epstein has with the Israeli state, and in fact is actually being accused of being an Israeli plant, an Israeli Mossad plant there who used this to be able to blackmail quite a lot of people. Well, Putin has continued to double down on this his statements. Besides that, also he has also said that the West is they have a vampire ball.
Положение, несправедливое положение вещей в международных делах. Они привыкли столетиями набивать брюхо человеческой плотью, а карманы деньгами. Но они должны понять, что бал вампиров заканчивается.
The vampire ball is ending. That's what he says. Tucker Carlson is another person who has been talking about how they've been attacking Russia for a long time now because of his positions against this. Well, this is not coming on, so I'll just let it be. So he has been saying that they have been attacking Russia for a long time now because of Russia's position against what has been revealed in the Epstein files. A lot of accusations about how Epstein orchestrated a lot of parties that entrapped or included a lot of the world's most powerful people. This kind of thinking in America and is one that even has caused problem for President Trump's very close supporters. One particular supporter we should know is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene put out a video where she said this was what broke her relationship with President Trump. She's one of the biggest MAGA supporters. She was one of the people who made big push towards getting President Trump elected at a time that President Trump was facing a lot of challenges in the Congress and across the whole American political space dominated by the Democrats. And here she puts out how when she made a call to President, she tried to reach out to and get peace for Epstein's victims. She ended up having problems with President Trump. This is what he said.
To tell you about the phone conversation that ended my relationship with Donald Trump, destroyed my political career, and proved that some secrets in Washington are more dangerous than others. This conversation happened in September 2025, after I promised Jeffrey Epstein's victims that I would help identify their abusers. And everyone in my congressional office heard every word of it. The call came the day after I held a press conference promising to work with Epstein survivors to reveal the names of people responsible for sexual abuse against women and girls. I had just finished a closed-door House oversight hearing where I listened to these women tell their stories. They were trembling. Their bodies were shaking as they described being raped at 14, at 16, by rich and powerful men who thought they could buy silence along with everything else. I told those women I would help them get justice. I told them their stories mattered more than protecting powerful people who had escaped accountability for too long. I told them that transparency and truth were more important than political comfort and connected relationships. That press conference triggered the phone call that ended everything. I was in my office when my staff told me the president was on the line. I put the call on speakerphone as I usually did for official conversations. What happened next was loud enough that everyone in my suite of offices could hear Donald Trump screaming at me about the Epstein files. He was extremely angry that I had signed the discharge petition to force release of the government files connected to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case. He was furious that I had promised to help identify people who had abused these women. And when I tried to explain why transparency mattered, he said something that I will never forget. My friends will get hurt. That's what the President of the United States told me when I asked him to support victims of sexual trafficking, not this will compromise ongoing investigations, not this will damage national security, not this will interfere with justice. He said his friends would get hurt. I was
So President Trump said his friends would get hurt. A lot of powerful people have come. One of the things that's become an incentive for President Trump, though, to release this files, it's because quite a lot of Democrats were also caught up in it. It was a bipartisan involvement. Jeffrey Epstein was an equal opportunity sex trafficker. He didn't mind who, and he didn't care who. But we come to see now that one of the places Jeffrey Epstein had veritable source of young girls was actually from Ukraine. One of the reports that came out of it said that the Ukrainian model agency called Linear 12 was actually a major supplier of girls to Jeffrey Epstein, and it was even suggested that as much as 400 girls may have come off of it. There's a sad story regarding Ukraine and trafficking of women from Ukraine. It's a very sad story. One thing, though, I should point out is that there's a history. The Ukrainian women are one of the most sought after women in the world. They are very beautiful. And there was this history where the Khanate of Crimea actually became a thorn in the flesh of the Ukrainian state. Then, long ago, they used to raid what is now present-day Ukraine. Then in the southern part of Russia, they would raid them and they would get Christian girls and Christian ladies, young girls, and they would go sell them in the Ottoman Empire. It was from one of such raids and one of such sales that eventually the Ottoman Empire got one of their most revered queens, Rosalena, I think her name. She was the wife of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. And Hurrem, I think her name is Hurrem Sultana, and she's there now in buried not too far away from, just close to her husband, Suleiman the Magnificent, if you go to the Suleimania Mosque in Istanbul. It's been a long tradition of trafficking of Ukrainian women in this world. And unfortunately, one of the outcomes of this war, not said, not discussed, is that a lot of Ukrainian women have now fallen victims to brothels in Europe. I dare say also that some of them are now within brothels or being trafficked in America. Besides the fact that Ukraine has lost a lot of doctors, a lot of engineers, and a lot of their youth, they've also lost quite a lot of the flower of the Ukrainian state. And it is that reason why recently President Zelensky opened up the borders so that young men could also go out there and maybe interact with the women who have gone. Most of the 8 million diaspora refugees of Ukraine from this war are actually women and children. Some are getting by, some are in, a large amount of them are in the sex trade all across Europe. It's an unfortunate thing, but that's just what it is. So it's not something that started today. Anyway, the move towards peace now is gaining traction. And we get to hear now that more people are beginning to feel that this move towards peace should be encouraged. It should be encouraged. One particular person is a governor in Nikolaev, the governor of Nikolaev Oblast. His name is Vitaly Kim. He believes that it is time that they should have peace in Ukraine. He supports all the efforts for peace that is going on in Ukraine now, and he actually believes that it is time for peace to be made. Peace is very important in Ukraine. He talked with the independent newspaper of Britain, and this is what Ukraine peace deal must put people before land. Once key Zelensky ally. The whole idea here now is that this peace is very important. The biggest sticking point regarding the Ukrainian war is actually the withdrawal from the remaining part of the Donbass that Russia has not already occupied. This is a sticking point, and this is a big problem. Kim believes that this shouldn't be a problem. People are dying, people are suffering. There's a lot of suffering going on. And when he was asked about the peace plan, the governor said the land is important, but still people are more important, and the situation is that we do not know what will happen tomorrow. He admitted that for me personally, victory is our borders to 1991 will be better, where people are happy and not killed, but everybody is very tired now. So for the Ukrainian people, I think the victory is just stopping the war, some guarantees for security for the future, for our children to have a life that we had before the invasion. Well, there's a report that says that a lot of Ukrainians are now beginning to, a survey came out and it says 40% of Ukrainian support withdrawal from Donbass. 40% does is an increase, but still 52% categorically are still against this this move towards making peace. Zelensky, though, has started to put a team together to go forward and have this peace meeting. A peace meeting, a tripartite peace meeting is supposed to take place between the Russians, the Ukrainians, and the Americans. That will be taking place in Abu Dhabi in the coming days. And Zelensky is getting ready for that meeting. There's a sense that this push towards peace is making pace. The Ukrainians maybe have come to that point where they are weary, but like they always say, they want a just peace. They want a peace that will give them a lot of the outcomes that would be palatable to them. That's how they see it. So Zelensky talked about how he had a meeting with his team, and they are coordinating their positions. I met with our negotiating team ahead of the new rounds of trilateral talks. We expect the meetings to take place in the coming days as early as this Wednesday and Thursday. Nearly all members of the negotiating team attended the meeting, namely Umerov, Budunov, Keske. So he went ahead and talked about how he's expecting the Americans to put more pressure on the Russians anyway. It was it's expected that negotiation will continue. And one thing though is we should be very sure of is that the Ukrainians can continue to have the support of the Britons. The Britons are all in. They are very much all in this war. They have said it that they are going to continue to bring pain. We remember that the MI6 have said that they will bring pain to the Ukrainians. There's no, I mean, to the Russians, there's no holding off on that particular endeavor. And one thing that has come off of it is that recently the Russians expelled a diplomat from Britain. His name is Gareth Stevens, and he was expelled from Russia. He was paraded as a spy and given a few weeks, I think 2 weeks, to leave Russia. Well, the Britons have taken reciprocal action. They have taken off the accreditation of one particular Russian diplomat. They didn't make too much noise about it. But this is Gareth Stevens here when he was unceremoniously exposed recently, and he was sent away. I should point out one thing. This lady here, her name is Blaise Metrowelli. She has said that her own intention, British intelligence, our key priority is exporting chaos to Russia. She had said it before. It's not new. She has maintained it, and we know how the British MI6. She's the director of the MI6. She is Ukrainian by origin. Her grandfather was a Ukrainian intelligence. I mean, a Ukrainian partisan who worked with the Germans. Is accused of war crime also, and she's now the head of the MI6. She's saying that she's going to make sure that they continue all their in aiding the Ukrainians to carry on a lot of asymmetric actions. The main program of action is arson and man-made incidents, cyber attacks on infrastructure and industry, provocation with drones at military and civilian facilities, aggressive activity of British submarine forces, a special line, a psychological and information operations aimed at undermining the society inside Russia. She is very dogged and very determined to bring pain to the Russians. I wish her well. The British are not holding off their fact that they want Russia to lose this. So another person who also believes that as this war is going on, and as a lot of pressure is being put on Ukraine, and it shouldn't be so. After all, who should be experiencing pressure should rather be the Ukrainians. That's what she feels, and that's Kaya Kallas. Kaya Kallas believes that this war is unfair to put so much pressure on the Ukrainians to make concessions while the Russians are not making concessions. In our own estimation, for the past 100 years, Russia has been the country that has been attacking a lot of countries, and they shouldn't get away with continuing these attacks. So this is how I hear saying that Russia for 100 years has been attacking countries, and it's not fair that that Ukraine is being forced to make concessions.
War does not continue or on Ukrainians to make very difficult concessions, which they are willing to do because they really want this war to stop. Now, this is blurring the picture from where the problem actually lies. If you think, last 100 years, Russia has attacked at least 19 countries, some as many as 3 or 4 times. None of those countries has ever attacked Russia. So the question is how we make sure that this war does not continue or go anywhere else. So we need to see concessions on the Russian side, on limitation on their military budget, on their army, all these things, or nuclear weapons. Yep. So that to take this threat really away, plus the accountability for.
There is a growing sense on the internet that Kaja Kallas is not one of the smartest diplomats in the world. I'm not the one who's saying it, but our name is becoming very much associated with stupidity these days. She forgets conveniently that the Finns attacked Russia, that the Germans attacked Russia. She has forgotten so many attacks. She forgot that the Germans, 3 million strong, had in their party, the Nazis had in their party, Hungarians, Romanians, Finns, they had quite a lot. Czechs, they had quite a lot of people who came with Hitler to attack the Russians. She's very conveniently forgetting quite a lot of history. And maybe that's why these days the word Kaja Kallas is becoming associated with stupidity. I really don't know why people are very unfair to her like that. I am not among them. I just mentioned what the internet is saying. Well, the Ukraine war is taking its toll on Germany. Germany's economy is dancing in not too nice waters. Their debt is increasing. Their debt has reached 2.9 trillion euros for the very first time. We should understand that, realizing that this war is putting a lot of pressure on them, one person actually asked that the debt ceiling should be increased, and the debt ceiling has actually increased. So we get to learn now that German debt has surpassed 2.79 trillion euros, and to a large extent, it has to do with the Ukraine war, the fact that energy cost is much more, and then the fact that they are releasing quite a lot of money, and they're also supporting a lot of Ukrainians with benefits. That is what some people are saying, but generally, the pressure on the German economy is mainly due to the fact that they've lost cheap energy, they've lost competitiveness in their market, and their biggest companies are now moving to China and America. Unemployment has gone up, and so much is happening to the German economy. And at this time that all of this is happening to the German economy, President Trump comes and creates the impression that that nuclear umbrella that Germany has always had, they may be losing it. And because of that, the Germans have started to feel that with all this rhetoric by the Russians, with the release of the Oreshnik and all these other weapon systems that the Russians have been showing the world that they have, it may just be time for Germany to have nuclear weapons. K. Gottschalk, that's his name. I don't know if it's a lady or a man, but this is what this politician from the Alternative for Germans saying that Germany, Berlin needs nuclear weapons now, arguing that Europe can no longer rely on US protection. Well, because she said, or he said, this politician said this, quite a lot of other German politicians have started saying that they want nuclear weapons. It may be good. One particular war is known as someone who is very hawkish on war. His name is Jean-Claude Fischer. He also is calling for the Europeans to develop their own atomic bomb. Well, Britain and France have atomic bomb, but putting it under the framework of EU. maybe a way that the Germans want to soften it so that it doesn't become like a German project. We should remember that the EU has been captured by the Germans and the Baltic states. These are countries that have historical animosity towards Russia, and it is for this reason why all the policies we see against Russia. So the Eastern Europeans are now running the show mainly in the EU, and then the Germans also. So now this talk is growing, but one particular politician who feels that all of this talk about Germany going to get a war, get nuclear weapons is madness. And that's Sarah Wagenknecht. She has a party called the Sarah Wagenknecht Party, and she came out and made a speech. She left an X post where she says, "This is madness. This shouldn't continue. We shouldn't be talking in that line." The whole world is very wary of a very aggressive and militarized Germany. Everybody remembers that two of the most warlike countries in the world, countries that they know their capacity or they try to keep under check, are Germany and Japan. Two of them these days are also now talking about having nuclear weapons. So this is the debate that is going on. And as all of this is going on, one country is trying to see how they can do what they can to stave off and hold off their decline. The Ukraine war, many people forget, has done quite a lot to Europe. But while everybody was focused on Russia, something was happening in other parts of the world, particularly in Africa. The great French Empire was losing its remaining how will I call it, its remaining territories, places where it has had influence for a long time. And in those places, they were losing a lot of their allies, yes, especially in the Sahel, and then recently also in Madagascar. So throughout the Sahel, what the French used to call the Central African Republic and then the West African states of France, Francophonie, they've lost quite a lot of influence there. We know they've been kicked out of Mali, kicked out of Burkina Faso, kicked out of Niger Republic. In fact, there was an attack recently in Niger Republic where it was said that the French are now coordinating a lot of coups in that neighborhood, trying to replace countries that are unfriendly to them and the places they lost territory. The Niger Republic one is very interesting because France, for a long time, always got cheap uranium from Niger. Niger is one of the largest custodian, they have one of the largest reserves of uranium. Well, this man has become a thorn in the flesh of France, and Macron has put out a plan and a strategy to remove him. His name is Ibrahim Traoré. He's the president of Burkina Faso. He is one of three Sahel leaders who have replaced French influence with Russian influence. And we saw first they relied on Wagner, and then now they rely very heavily on the Russian army and Russian military contractors. So France is plotting new coup in Africa according to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service. Macron authorized operations to eliminate undesirable African leaders, including a failed January 3rd plot targeting Burkinabe President Ibrahim Traoré. France was involved in an attempt in Burkina Faso. France is also exploring ways to overthrow the new president of Madagascar, Michael Randrianirina. This is him here. Well, the losses of the Europeans is not only that happened in Europe. It's also those that happened in Africa. Africa was a cash cow for the French. Their currency, the CFA, was tied to the French franc. They had business interests there, and then they controlled almost all the politics of all those countries. They lost it. They lost it because they were so focused on doing harm to Russia. While they were doing that, the Russians were, will I say sneakily, or were they doing it brazenly? But somehow, every single territory that France lost has been taken over by the Russians in Central Africa and in the African Sahel countries and all that. So we now see this attempt by President Macron to initiate actions against these African countries. It's going to fail. I can say that for sure, that it's going to fail. Iran is still in the talk, but we get to hear now that a lot of things have been de-escalated. The Iranian foreign minister recently gave a press conference to the CNN. He talked to the CNN and he said, we're not afraid of war. We're just worried that there may be a miscalculation on Trump's part. The Iranians are sure of themselves. They are so much sure of themselves. But they say they want to continue the negotiations, and the negotiations are supposed to be that they will not do nuclear weapons. They've said it and reiterated it many times that they don't need that weapon, they don't want it, but that they have a right to enrichment and they have a right to their ballistic missiles. And it is the fact that they have these ballistic missiles that did untold harm to Israel during the 12-day war. It is the fact that they now know they have a deterrent. And it is that deterrent that has given them that confidence. Well, it turns out that there's possibly going to be a meeting between the Iranian Aragachi and Steve Witkoff. That makes sense because Steve Witkoff will be in that neighborhood in UAE for the tripartite meeting between Russians, Ukrainians, and the Americans. So he may just also move on. The Russians, the Iranians had said they were not going to meet with the Americans, but it seems like this meeting may take place in Istanbul. And we now get to hear that everything is de-escalating a little bit, and we are just hoping that war doesn't break out in the Middle East. One thing, though, that has happened is just as the energy truce has ended, the Russians have continued the attack on energy infrastructure. A massive attack on Ukraine's energy resources has begun. All these strikes have been carried out on coal mines and other facilities that supply fuel to thermal power plants. And drones attack continued in Pavlograd, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, and many other regions. Multiple launch rocket systems were hitting Zaporizhia. And then one of the big reports that came out was that a HIMARS facility was destroyed by an Iskander missile. It's very much in the news there. We have images of it in most Twitter feeds and in the media there. Of course, not on CNN, not on BBC. On BBC, rather, they will tell you that the Russians attacked a bus that killed 12 coal miners. Well, we just said that the Russians are attacking coal facilities and all. Anyway, this is where I'll end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share and subscribe so that we continue to march towards 5,000 subscribers. Thank you. Have a good day.